So, as of recording this, last week I finally got my hands on the PlayStation 5 after months of searching and sleepless nights and days of waiting in online queues to get one. I finally got a PS5. And the first game that I've been playing since I got my PS5 and going ham on is, of course, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which of course released on the PlayStation 5 as a launch title, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that one because I've been very out of the loophole with anything to do with PS5s because I've just been obsessed with trying to get one. But I beat the game a few days ago. Like I said, I'm on the verge of nearly 100%ing the entire game and getting a platinum trophy. So I feel like I'm in a perfect position to finally go ahead and give my full thoughts on the game. Now, I will quickly mention this will be a spoiler review because the game has been out for 4 months. So I feel that most people who will have been excited for Spider-Man Miles Morales will have already played it by now. So yes, there will be spoilers in this review. If you have not beaten the game, take that as a warning. And before I get into the review, I will quickly go over my thoughts for the original Spider-Man game on PS4, because surprisingly, I never did a review for that game, which is kind of crazy because I loved that game. I easily put it up there alongside the first 2 Arkham games as one of the best superhero games I've ever played. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love the world that they crafted of this pre-existing world where we have an experienced Peter Parker. The world of New York was fantastic. The gameplay was great. The story, as I mentioned, was fantastic. Everything about that game I just absolutely loved, and I had such a blast playing it. So I was really excited going into this one, not just because of it obviously being my first game on the PS5, but also because I just had so much fun playing the original. Straight off the bat, I loved this just as much as the first one, and I was really impressed with what they did here. I think for positives, I have to go straight into the story. I really loved the story for this game, because in contrast to the original, where you're playing as a Peter Parker who's been now 8 years into Spider-Man, he's very experienced, he's already met up and had his initial confrontations with a lot of his rogues gallery. Whereas with Miles, we're coming into it as a newbie. You really feel that, and the game does a good job not just telling you that story-wise, but also telling you that through the gameplay, because when you're controlling Miles, he doesn't feel as confident or as refined as Peter. He kind of feels a bit all over the place. As the character progresses through the story, we feel like we have a connection with him because we're also going on this journey of this responsibility, because he has to look after New York while Peter is away, which was just a really nice plot point. And I just liked that because it really made me connect with Miles in a way that I never honestly thought I would. Like, I enjoyed him when he was in the first game, but here I really love what they did with his character. And it was just such a cool way to kind of have this character really trying to evolve just beyond the other Spider-Man. He wants to more specifically be like the Spider-Man of Harlem, which is where he's living in the game. That was really cool. I loved that. The new characters as well they introduced throughout are also fantastic. I really liked Genki in particular, the sidekick that we have in the game. He was a really cool presence. I really liked him and Miles and their dynamic with one another. Aaron Davis as well, he's also known as the Prowler in the game. He shows up a couple of times. I really liked him and Miles as well because you can tell that rift between them because of them being related, and obviously Miles' dad having a very, how we say, complicated relationship with Aaron, and how that in turn has complicated Aaron and Miles' relationship as well. That was really cool to see, and especially with how that comes to a head at the end of the game with what they do with those characters was really interesting, and it really got me emotionally involved, which I honestly didn't think I would be, but that was just how much I loved his character. I really liked Finn as well as the Tinkerer. I also really liked what they did with Finn as a character, having her revealed to be the Tinkerer. And it was just so good because one of the things I loved about the original Spider-Man was that the villains felt very complex. They didn't feel like these characters that were just mustache-twirling villains. They were villains that had a reason and a purpose, and you could understand what they were doing. And Finn falls straight into that, and I really like what they did with her. With her and Miles having this real friendship and this real connection that you felt. And so when you're going up against her in the underground throughout the whole game, you really do feel like I kind of don't want to go against her because I agree with to some extent with what she's doing. And that was really cool. And again, just kind of building up off the great things that they did with in the original game with the villains, and they're just carrying it over to here with Finn as the Tinkerer. Really, really good. Probably one of my favourite characters across both games. I really love what they did with her, and the conclusion to her story as well, with her going from this person who was just so intent on destroying Roxxon that she ends up going to the end of the game and sacrificing herself, I thought that was a really nice payoff to her story and her relationship with Miles. The world as well is obviously just as good as it was in the first game. It is the same map that we've had beforehand, I think minus like the Roxxon Tower and Harlem, but it was nice to kind of have a different time of year that we're playing through, obviously playing through the winter, and having all of Manhattan covered in snow is a really nice visual. And I have to say as well, this game looks beautiful on the PS5. Now I will note, the TV that I'm using for the PS5 is my backup TV because my main one is still up in my accommodation in Manchester, which I still can't get to at the moment because of COVID reasons, but I have to say, even just basing it off that TV, the game looks absolutely incredible. And even though I couldn't play it at 4K, I did turn on the 60 FPS mode, and my good god, it is beautiful. I honestly think I will struggle to go back to playing that game in a 30 frame per second mode, because playing it at 60 FPS is just magnificent. The gameplay as well is just as good as it was in the first one, and I like a lot of the new additions that they brought into here. Like I say, the way that Miles moves around the city and moves around during combat, it feels different to Peter. It doesn't feel like it's the same mechanics exactly copy and pasted. They've actually bothered to put a sense of differentiation between the two fighting styles, which I really liked. And the new stuff that we have here was also cool. You have the Venom Blast, where you use like electricity to stun and damage enemies. That was really cool, and I really enjoyed that power, as well as the camouflage one as well, which at first I wasn't sure about because I thought, is this going to make the game too easy? But you have points in the game where you have a lot of enemies, and that became very, very helpful for me during a lot of the stealth sections in particular. So I really enjoyed that ability, and plus the fact that you have enemies that can counteract that. It helped to increase the variety that you had in your gadgets, but I like that the game also upped its difficulty to counteract that as well and not make the game feel too easy or too lightweight. In terms of negatives, I only really have a couple, but they're not really big ones that derail the whole game for me personally. The first one I'll mention is that I did find Krieger a bit one-dimensional as a villain. He's the leader of Roxxon, who Finn and the Underground are going against, and whereas I felt Finn was a really well-rounded and complex villain, I felt that Krieger kind of got the short end of the stick. I didn't really find him that interesting as a villain. Of course, he's voiced by Troy Baker, which is a plus, but as an actual character, I didn't find him that compelling, and just in terms of the subtlety to him as a villain compared to what we got with the Tinkerer, I just felt a little bit let down in that regard. I felt they could have done much more with him, because in the original game, you had Mr. Negative and Otto Octavius, who were both really well-rounded villains, so they've done it beforehand. Maybe they just spent all their time on Finn and they just kind of didn't have anything else to do with Krieger. Maybe that's the case. And another small one will be that I did find the Tinker reveal quite obvious, but I won't really make it that much of a negative because the game does reveal it pretty early on, which I was happy about, because like as soon as I met Finn, even though I have very limited knowledge of the whole Miles Morales side of Spider-Man comics, I could guess straight away that she was the Tinkerer, so the fact they revealed it before the end of the first act definitely did help to rectify that issue for me. Other than that, I think this game is brilliant. I think it is just as good as the original Spider-Man on PS4. I really had a blast playing this one, and as first games on a new console go, I don't think I really could have gone much better with this one. So I'm going to give Spider-Man Miles Morales the score of a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, and like I say, I'm just going to be playing the rest of the game now, getting to 100% the entire thing like I did with the original. I just can't wait to see what they do with the sequel. Maybe they'll have us playing as Miles and Peter in the next Spider-Man game. Who knows? Regardless of what they do, I'm interested. So thank you all very much for watching my review on Spider-Man Miles Morales. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this game, because I'm very interested to see what you guys think. And also, if you want to, just lecture me on how long it's taken for me to get a PS5, because I know I took way too long, but we finally got there in the end. We finally got one, so at least we've finally got over the finish line after about 4 months of panicking. I'll also actually leave my PSN on screen as well, so that if you guys maybe don't already have me on PSN and you're interested, go ahead and add me on there, so that you'll be able to see how much time I actually spend on FIFA 21 on PS5. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to share the video around, leave a like on the video, and I'll hope to see you all again next time.